Welcome to English 200. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Jason.
We are the creators of this course, and one of us might also be your instructor for this term. If you took English 100, you will see that there are some familiar things in this class. So you're going to see the Compose Yourself podcast is back for each module. In this episode, we're really going to just be covering what carries over from English 100, what you don't need to worry about if you had that course with us. And we're also going to cover like how to get familiar with a couple of key concepts from that course. We're going to talk about the overall structure of English 200 and what to expect, and how you can be most successful in this class. So be sure to watch or listen to the podcast every week because it is required media for this course. Jason, what do you want to share with our students about what carries over from English 100?
So I'd say the big thing that carries over, if you did take that, would be that rhetorical knowledge. So we're not going to really deal with, you're not going to have a rhetorical analysis or anything like that in this class, but we definitely will still be thinking about the rhetorical situation, audience purpose, all of that kind of stuff that went into it. That information and those skills will carry over as well. Big one, APA formatting. We're going to keep working on that. We're going to increase our expectations. But the content of this course is a little bit different. So there isn't going to be an autoethnography. Like I said, there's not going to be rhetorical analysis. We're not going to be doing narrative writing. We are now in academic territory.
That's great. Those are good tips. So there's a few things that don't carry over. And there are things we still need to be thinking about as we move into this English 200 phase. So, for students who didn't have our version of the English 100 class, um, and you want to sort of go back and maybe see what some of those previous podcasts, the information that was in that first season of our podcast for English 100, they can get to those on our YouTube channel, which we'll link at the top of the modules page in this class. They can also find resources at the top of modules, and I'm going to show that here on the screen to help them with APA citation and style. So there were expectations for APA citation and style in English 100, but I would say they were a gentle introduction to those things.
Right,
And
right.
now the responsibility to be using those in an academic way are greater in English 200. We will also be working on that throughout the class. So we don't expect them to know how to do everything perfectly right now. We continue to work on those skills, but just so that they know, we did link at the top of our modules page the APA 7th edition style guide. I
Bookmark
recommend
it.
all students like bookmark that, keep it on your browser. And then where to get writing help so that our students know they have access to the Office of Student Writing and Learning to get assistance with their writing. So no matter what version of English 100 you had, whether it was at the Chicago School or not, these resources are things that you're going to need to know. But I think that there are also a set of ideas and values about writing more broadly that carry over no matter what kind of classes you've had. Jason, what do you think
Right.
about writing carries through no matter what class you've had previously?
In English 100, we talked a lot about the idea that writing is a process, not a product. So we covered, you should always be brainstorming and outlining and drafting and reviewing, revising, all of that. Um, so that's definitely going to come over here. English 200, you are going to go through a process for a research paper, but reading is also a process. So that's kind of a new one. And we're going to be talking a lot about that, how the reading process, the academic reading process goes, because research is a process. So it's kind of this, if there is one theme, it is that all of these activities are process oriented. It's not just a one and done. You will not be finished even when you end this class. Um, so yeah,
I think those are great tips because our students sometimes think, I finished my English classes. That means, I'm done with learning writing. Well, actually, it's the beginning of learning writing. And then throughout your
right.
whole program, you continue to practice the things that you learn in your English 100, 200 sequence, and you grow as a writer through your entire program. So I think those are really good tips. That process is still in place. We also wanted to give a couple of tips about just generally being successful in our class. I think the first tip we want to talk about is moving through the modules in a linear way. You'll notice that you can't just click on assignments in our course navigation, and it's very purposeful. The reason you can't is because you cannot do the assignments in this class unless you've worked through the module in this class. So what that means is, like, say for module one, you're going to want to click on this first assignment and then just go through the course by clicking next. Obviously, if you know where you're at and you go back to modules, you can click that specific spot and I'll show that. But it is important to go just through it as it's built. We built this course very purposefully to give you the support you need to do the next thing. So here you'll watch the podcast for the week, watch or listen. We also have a transcript that you can read. And then you'll work your way through the required readings or videos. Recommended means they'll be helpful, but you're not required to do them. Then you'll click next and look at what do I do next in the course. This is going to be a discussion. So module one will have your introduction discussion. It will also have the regular module discussion. So this is the only module that will have two discussions. So by doing that, it builds upon itself. You're never expected to go to the last part of the module, click the major assignment, and know how to do it without having done all of the module itself. So we really just want to see you always going into modules. Every time you come into class through your dashboard, look at the announcements on the homepage and then go to modules. You can
Yep.
also navigate through the Academic Support Hub here in this navigation. When there are announcements in your class, you'll see that tab here as well, where you can just go to the announcements page. But those are the best options. In this side, left-hand sidebar, you really just want to go to modules, announcements, and Academic Support Hub. Jason, what other tips do you have for students who really want to be successful in this class?
I think my two biggest ones, or the two ones I've noticed from students in the past, submit and participate. And I know that that sounds kind of strange, especially when you first start out in a class, you're like, yes, I'm going to be 100% proactive, yay. But, life does happen. I think we get that. Your instructors will get that. Things are going to step in your way. Your energy might decrease. You might feel overwhelmed with an assignment. Um, Submit and participate. Watch the videos, do the readings, submit by the deadline, something, anything at all. And I promise that all of our students will be successful if they submit and participate.
That's a great tip. Always submit something. I always say it's
Something.
easier for me to give you some kind of credit if you give me something to read. So, a zero is a lot harder to overcome than even half credit. It's a
Right.
lot
Right.
more detrimental to your long-term grade. A zero is very difficult to overcome. So just submit something is good advice. So this course also has two tracks. We're really taking them through academic writing track and the academic reading track, and we're doing them simultaneously, hoping, that those skills keep transferring between tracks. But we wanted to give students an opportunity to learn the things that it seems like you go into your classes and it's like, go read this thing, but nobody ever teaches you how to read academic texts in a strategic way that helps you really understand them. So we wanted to bring that element into this class. So we do have a read track and we have a write track. The read track is really deeply explained, especially in Module 1. When you go to read track overview, you're going to see that there's a whole assignment sheet that really outlines what are we doing in the read track, why are we doing it this way, what's the purpose. So students really do need to read this entire document, but there's also an assignment sheet video that walks through it, explains it. Um, these assignments will be found all throughout the course. So they're placed here in Module 1 so students can see what the track entails and where those assignments will show up. For instance, the first assignment that's associated with that track is going to be in the research journal. So every time there's a research journal, those are going to be associated with that reading track. Jason, what do you think it's most important for students to know about the write track?
We do explain this in more detail. We have an overview of the entire research paper. So I definitely recommend, again, going through all of those resources. But really shortly, I know that writing research papers is complicated. It's tough. Writing these long papers is complicated and tough. So really with the right track, we kind of broke everything down into components, into tiny little baby steps. So by the very end, our students will have a pretty long, significant research paper, but they're not going to just wait till the end to write it, right? Like we said, everything writing is a process, research is a process. So for the right track, every single module, they will have something to do that's advancing them toward that final goal of a strong research paper. Um, so I just recommend definitely they should review all of those. Every single module major assignment for that right track has an assignment sheet. It has a video. It has a special rubric for it. Um, so yeah, just like you said, go through in a linear way. Know that they're working toward a one long-term goal, but they're doing it step by step. Submit step by step. It's really hard to catch up. Not even just from a zero, but who wants to sit down and write a whole long paper or write it bit by bit?
Right.
So that's why the kind of that active participation is really important.
Yes, and I'm showing in the screen like the first step, module one, the first step in that process is a
Right,
research
right.
proposal. So we do have them walking through those steps bit by bit, and each of those steps look like this. There's an assignment sheet, like you're saying, there's a video. Um, so I think what we really want them to do in these tracks is through the reading track, they're really learning about those skills of critically reading, annotating a text, taking notes, understanding how to bring information together. And in that right track, we're really having them choose a project where they can demonstrate that they can do those skills, that reading, synthesizing information, how to do a proposal. So we're teaching them all these different pieces of what does it mean to do academic reading and academic writing. We're taking a step-by-step approach through this course. Is there any last thing that you want to leave our students with about the broad concept that we're trying to get to here in English 200 before we wrap up our welcome?
I think it's just like you said that we're kind of navigating this critical reading and critical writing. And in so many classes, like I didn't have a class like this when I went to college, and I wish I did, because nobody taught me how to read an academic article. I just had to do it on my own. And nobody really taught me how to do academic writing. It was just, hey, go out and write this essay. You'll get better over time. So I think, if we know that writing is a process, research, reading, all of that, then my final piece of advice would be to trust in the process. I know that it might seem overwhelming right now, but trust us, trust in the process, take it step by step. I have been teaching this class or variants of it for a long time now, and students always succeed when they participate and trust in the process.
That's great advice. I would say my final advice would be to just be aware of the increased need to pay attention to APA style formatting and citation. It is one of those key components of this class and of the future writing that our students are going to do. So I really want to see them focus on that skill set because it is a skill set and they get to practice it a lot here and get a lot of feedback from us on how to do
Right.
it well. Um, I guess I would also just say review the syllabus if they have questions. And lastly, and always, please do reach out to your instructor students if you have additional questions about the course, about the assignments. Your instructor is there to help you. So please do reach out to them if you have other questions.